Welcome to Rules of Villainy episode 71, where 3 new trading card game players quest and challenge their way to the competitive top tables and discuss their opinions on Disney's Lorcana. This evening, we'll be reporting on the hottest news in Lorcana, answering your questions, and discussing the latest developments in the metagame. I'm Villain Vince, joined as always by my 2 co-hosts, Villain Andy and the mayor of Lorcana himself, Brad. How's it going tonight, gentlemen?
It's going. It's cold here in Missouri, but
It is a bit chilly. It is a bit chilly. I tell you what, Whisper in the Well is here and Gargoyles is amongst us. I've been reaching back into that Disney archive and watching the Gargoyles episodes. I'm in season 2. I watched an episode right before this podcast. I gotta say, I really like it.
Ooh, season 3 is where it really starts to get good. You're gonna love it, Vince.
Don't
Chip,
do that.
Chip is going to come out of nowhere in this podcast and just tackle Andy.
We did not talk about season 3. I've been explicitly aware that we don't do that.
Season 2, the only episode apparently that's canon in season 3 is the first one, and then after that it's all comics. The comics then take over.
You gonna get all the comics, Vince?
Maybe, we'll see. I gotta say, really, it's a show that holds up. It's really, really great. And it's fun to then go to my local game store and play these characters that I'm learning consistently about, and messing with Brad when he tries to play David Xanatos. I'm like, that's not David Xanatos. That's Jonathan Frakes.
It's David Xanatos.
Demona? That's
with voice actors. What?
I don't know. This is unhinged. We're gonna have to cut all this out.
This is all Star Wars actor or Star Trek actors.
Star Trek. Star Trek. Come on. Classic.
Not comfortable
Classic. Yeah, I mean, they've got everybody. If you watch long enough, you got Michael Dorn, you got Brent Spiner.
This video is not retaining the viewers, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Absolutely. Nope. It is absolutely. They've got a whole Wikipedia page of on the cast of Star Trek connection for Gargoyles. So, but yeah, you're right, Andy. Let's move on to Underworld news.
Right. Our first bit here in the news is that tickets for DLC Richmond went on sale this past Monday, and it was a doozy. They sold out within a minute and a half of release. Unfortunately for many Illumineers, tickets went on sale on the mobile app before desktop, leading to many folks being unhappy about the process. If you haven't received a ticket yet, don't lose hope, as tickets will likely come available as people cancel and adjust their plans. Join Pastimes and our Discord with the links below to help keep updated for ticket releases.
Yeah, and if you were lucky enough to get a ticket, either competitor or attendee, the pricing structure for the DLC Richmond has been adjusted based on the feedback that we gave them about DLC Milwaukee, which honestly, I haven't done all of the math, but it looks really good. They've added Friday side events, so you get there a little early. And then the big side events, there's one on Friday, one on Saturday, and then one on Sunday. They all have, I believe, 5 wins gets a bunch of the promos, and then 6 wins gets a playmat and a bunch of the promos, and then 7 wins gets a play set of all the promos, non-foil, and a playmat. It's seems much more accessible to be able to get all of the fun prizes they'll have. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that does sound exciting. Also exciting is coming with Wilds Unknown, which, as everybody knows, is going to be the Pixar set, or at least those that have watched my reaction as this set has been announced will know that it's the Pixar set. Lorcana will have pre-release packs available, and each of these pre-release packs will have 6 packs of Wilds Unknown, 1 of 6 potential promo cards, 1 for each in color, obviously, a cardboard deck box, 4 dice, and 1 special set-specific item and rule sheet. These pre-release packs will retail for $39.99 MSRP and will come out in Q2 alongside Wilds Unknown at your local game store. And I think these are going to be perfect for limit events, especially sealed, and any other pre-release events that your local game store does.
I'm
And
excited
they
about
saw.
those.
Did you see we know what the special set specific item is for this set?
postcard.
Yeah, it's they said one of 3
Yeah,
postcards. That seems cool.
1 of 3 postcards. Yep.
Yeah,
Well, let's
about
move
those.
on to Quest or Challenge. So pre-release packs. Oh, for those that have this segment hasn't been around for a while, so I should preface what the rules are here. Okay, so these are statements that we will each read, and each of us will say whether or not we quest, meaning that we agree that this will happen, or challenge. Or we can also pass because that's a totally legal option within Lorcana. But challenge means that we don't think that's going to happen, and we'll each give like a little bit of a spiel, like a very short reasoning on our justification. So the first statement here is pre-release packs will replace the trove.
Challenge.
Brad. Oh, Andy,
Uh,
challenge.
I'm torn. I want to say challenge, but part of me thinks with all the recent cuts that they've had with the pins and even the pre-release pack has fewer dice, just little things like that. I'm like, I don't know where they're going to stop cutting the playmats. They only have one playmat for the set championship, right? So, possibly, I'm kind of teetering on either way. I don't want it to replace the trove. I want to make that clear, but I do love the pre-release pack for like sealed events and such, since it has everything you need to pick up and play in that mode. But replacing, I could be persuaded either way. I can't give a definite answer on that one.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
I think it's a challenge, and if it replaces anything, they replace those like bundle thingies. They do a different bundly thingy each time. They're getting slightly better, but so that like Stitch Buccaneer, those weird.
Oh, you're talking about like the like Costco bundle thing and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Costco bundle, or the more common ones we saw in like Inklands, where it was like one of the mini binders and like the oversized cards and like 6 packs or whatever, and they came in the same shape as the original Ursula's Illumineers quest. Those kind of boxes.
Yeah.
They were like,
Yeah, I know.
ugh. Yeah, like that kind of thing. They were like, eh.
Yeah.
I feel like they're getting better, but they're
So
still
the gift sets is I think what
gift
they call
sets.
those.
There
right?
you go. Yeah, there you go. That's what I was talking about. I hope they replace those, if anything.
Yeah.
I think
What about you,
So I think like the gift boxes have replaced the gift sets. That we've been getting. So, but we aren't getting those like every set. We're getting them periodically. And unfortunately, I do think I'm going to quest with this one because I do think there's probably going to get rid of something. And I would not have said this if it weren't for the inclusion of the dice and like the little like deck box in there. I just feel like they're kind of making this like trove light. And I like obviously I don't want it to happen. I'll be really annoyed. So I hope I'm wrong. Like I've never wanted to be more wrong about something in my life because I will use the troves to organize all of my cards.
Same.
And so I'd be really, really mad if they get rid of it. But yeah. Anyway,
So
next statement.
let me help you be wrong real quick, Vince. I think the dice and the box, it's meant to be like you play it at an event. Where
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I absolutely hope you're right.
So I think I have hope, Vince. It's okay. We'll keep it. We'll get the troves.
I hope so.
Yeah. I hope so too. My Quester challenge, the reason why this bit came back was on my walk tonight. I thought of this thing that I thought would be really cool. We've seen Wilds Unknown we see Woody and Buzz walking through like the jungle, and I feel like we're gonna have this big jungle adventure here. And I thought, what if this game had a bleed mechanic? I'm certain other games have it. I know that like D&D and video games and such have it as well. And my idea was that it would be when certain characters or certain things happen to a character and they damage them, if they don't get fully healed by their next turn, they take an additional damage at the start of their next. So something like that. It's an ongoing effect that continually damages your characters after certain game states. And my statement here is Wilds Unknown will include that bleed mechanic. What do you guys think? Imagine getting slashed by Shere Khan or something, and then you're bleeding.
Vince is muted, so I'm gonna challenge that.
Sorry.
I just don't think that I would have to think about it more, but it doesn't sound like it's something that would read very well on the card. And I think instead they do options like, um, the Prince John that takes damage every time a character comes in play, like a way
Sure.
to sort of chip away at something that's got a little powerful. But if they do, I don't think it's coming in Wilds Unknown. So that's why I challenge.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to challenge too, partly because removal, and so that would be kind of a removal mechanic, tends to be pretty expensive at Lorcana. So the card itself, I think, would either be like really expensive to have that, or as we've seen in the set, Whispers in the Well with this boost mechanic, you can do certain things that are similar to this, like move damage with like Cheshire Cat and stuff, but you have to pay for that. So, so I just think there'd be some like, it's not impossible. I just don't think there's going to be something that's auto at like the start of your turn that's going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
better answer, better example I thought of. Smee, Mr. Smee. I think that is more likely the kind of bleed effect that they do in this game, where when he was exerted, quest for 2, when he's exerted, take a damage at the end of the turn. I think like adding a bleeding marker kind of thing is.
What do you think, Brad?
Hard to track.
Well, I thought it'd be a cool thing. That's why I thought of it. So I was mostly curious what you guys thought, if it was a good idea or not. But it seems like you're both challenging there, and that's totally fine. We'll move on to the next one. I think Andy's got one too.
So I guess it's not really a statement, but fill in the blank. This franchise is the one that is missing from the promotional picture we all saw. So if you haven't visited the Disney Lorcana webpage about the Wilds Unknown stuff, they have a picture of the packs that are laid out. And one of the packs is like very artfully blurred out and removed so that you don't know what it is. What franchise? Fill in the blank. This franchise is on the pack. Brad.
Permission to speak. Bug's Life.
Ooh, that's a good one, Vince.
Thank you.
Pocahontas.
That was my other one.
See, that's what a lot of people are saying because we already know it.
What about you?
I don't know. I just wanted to hear what your answers
You just wanted to ask us. Yeah.
I really wanted to ask you guys. I think maybe it's like Brave. Like Merida.
Yeah.
Brave, right?
It would make sense to put a princess on there, something outside of the Pixar. Well, I guess they have a Gadget on there, so she's not Pixar proper.
I
don't know.
But yeah,
I ultimately think it'll very much depend on how quickly they're going to integrate Pixar into Wilds Unknown, because we know that Woody and Buzz are coming, so Toy Story is likely to come. Are there any other Pixar properties that are also going to join, or is it just going to be the Toy Story franchise? Because there are a lot of toys.
We saw a teaser for Turning Red on one of the.
You're right. That's a good one too.
I think that's coming. But the reason why I picked Bug's Life was just because everything we've seen so far was Woody and Buzz in this big jungle, as I described earlier, and it's like, and then we know the Gadget's on the packs as well. So I'm like, why not have bugs that are even smaller, in their in that vicinity? So who knows? But I'm curious. Last
theory I thought of, it could be the next big bad, right? If we already know Winter Spell gives us more information about who the big bad is. So it's Hades, obviously we already know that. But the pack will have Hades on it as like his bad guy version or whatever. Maybe that's maybe that's why it's blurred out. Never know.
Yeah, but I feel you know what? We'll save it for the time.
Theories.
Let's move on to constituents corner.
All right. We have our first question from Paul. It's kind of a lengthy one. I'm going to kind of paraphrase it here. He was listening to a podcast and they were talking about mobile games. And he wanted to ask us, he gave us an example of like, what if rare cards were $1 a month, or all rare cards were $1, super rare $2, something like that. So future thinking question, he asked, do you think a digital client should be free, use QR codes in packs like other TCGs, or subscriptions like other games? And what would you be willing to pay for a digital client? What do you guys think? I know, Andy, you've got some some history with what was it, Runeterra? Is that
Runeterra. It's the
that's a card game?
digital card game. It was digital only though, but it was also compared to Hearthstone, which is another popular one where, to my understanding, it's very hard to get all of the cards to be able to play the game at a high level without paying money. You got to do a lot of grinding. And I felt like the amount that I played of Runeterra very fairly equated to the amount of cards. It was very easy enough to get all the cards, to play the game that I wanted to start trying to get better at the game. Ultimately, sort of answer the question, I think the digital client needs to basically be free if they want to make it fancier. You can charge money for insert method of making it fancier, whatever. You know, it's cool, the idea of like QR codes to get packs in the game and stuff. I really just would love to see a simulation tool published by Ravensburger that allows you to just play the game online with your friends, you know, and it would be free.
Yeah.
But to answer how much would I be willing to pay, how much money do I got? Like, just here, just take my card.
Yeah.
Like, so ultimately, I'm gonna, support it no matter what.
That's kind of where I'm at. My main comparison, or only comparison really, digital card game is Marvel Snap, and it's been known. It's got a reputation for. There's been times where a lot of the community has been really upset with some of the paywalls that they've had for certain cards. They introduce a mode, and the only way to get this card is if you grinded it out. You for however many hours, you still wouldn't have enough unless you paid some kind of money. And I never want to see that kind of thing happen in a game like Lorcana. And what's interesting to me is that like I don't know how to implement it with a game that's in paper as well, where we go out, we buy the cards, we play the game in person. And I think the more they put that product digitally, I feel like it could contribute to a lot less people actually buying the cards. If I can just play the game digitally, why should I go buy the product unless they are, prepping for some kind of DLC? And I'm sure there's ways to do it. What my idea is basically what I do with Marvel Snap. There's ways in the game to acquire currency just by playing the game. I put more time into that game than I've ever put any money into. I have paid for some things, but most of the time it's all just cosmetic. And I feel like it's a great way to implement a lot of alternate art and stuff too. Like if there was a shop for alternate art for some of these cards, people could spend their in-game currency and stuff on that, but still play the game fundamentally at some level. What Paul's question is like, how do we do a subscription plan and make people feel like their time and their money is worth it into the digital realm? And I'm torn. I'm really torn because, like you said, you and I think we would probably dump a lot of money into it just to play on a platform that actually works. And we know that they're having problems with the Play Hub now and all kinds of other things. So there's a lot of.
I don't think the same people are making the digital client that are making the Play Hub, Brad. Sure. I think we can relax on that.
For sure. Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to say is an application like this at this magnitude is going to take a team, and it's going to take some kind of subscription service. It's going to take somebody or people who are willing to put some kind of money into it to keep it up to date and to keep it competitive, keep it fun. There's a lot of things that go into it, and I don't know what the actual answer is, but yeah, maybe no.
I think it's simple. I mean, there's very small groups of teams that make simulation based softwares for TCGs. I won't name any specifics. But sure, they're not huge companies. They're not making tons of money. They don't need to make tons of money. Just a simple thing. Almost just don't have in-game currency. Don't have cosmetics. Don't have leaderboards. Just a simple way to play with your friends over the internet and have just simple matchmaking.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it doesn't take anything away from going to the LGS. Doesn't incentivize that.
My view on this was, so regardless, you're going to have to pay folks to build this application. So it's not a free thing.
Right.
And you've got to pay to support the server. There's like money that goes behind this. It's not, it's not just like it's, a free thing to do.
Certainly.
But I ultimately think the problem, and which is why ultimately I think Lorcana will follow suit that other card games do by having like QR codes and packs and stuff is they've got to still incentivize folks to buy the physical product. And I think that's how they will pay for the game and also keep the sustainability of the physical card game going. And probably, you know, maybe you buy a gift set, and it's not only do you get like a cool promo in it, you also get like an exclusive QR code for a an alt art card in the platform. And then I think probably on top of that, you will have, you know, like subscriptions, you know, for whatever. Like I know, like with the platform. Well, I mean, I guess we'll just say it. Pixelborn, you know, it had like a subscription for like a Patreon, and he donated that money that was like left over from running the whole thing and stuff, and it got you like, you know, cosmetic kind of things, and you could like set your username and stuff. And I think ultimately, like, that's the way to go. It's just like,
Yeah.
you don't have to do this, but if you want to do it, you can. You know, it's like, you know, it's a holidays. Do you want like a holiday theme? It's Halloween. Do you want like a Halloween theme? Like, you know, you could do that with things like the playmats and stuff. Like, do you want to, you know, play on the generic playmat, or do you want to get like, you know, the, you know, print like the little print Mickey, the Prince Mickey playmat and stuff. So I think there are ways in which that are not game reliant to do that. What I don't think will happen is I do not think they will do this in a way in which you have to grind forever to try to get the things that you need, because that will make the client basically useless, except for those that are like super, super grindy in that, which there are going to be those folks, no matter what, like that's going to happen. But I think ultimately you've got to like encourage a wide group of folks to play. And so, you know, and encourage that. So people that feel left out, because we haven't had a digital client, like an official digital client, or even a great digital client in a long time. So, you know, I think that's the way they'll go, would be my guess, is they'll kind of split the difference.
Yeah, the two things that I want, if they ever implement a digital client and any kind of currency or anything at all where you throw money at it, is the money goes to cosmetics. It's not pay to win. It is totally your choice to,
obviously.
you know, to if you get some kind of subscription service, you get these bonuses, you know, this extra in-game currency, extra XP,
Extra
or whatever
card in your hand
leveling
to
system
start
they
the
have. Not that.
I don't think I don't think it'll be play to win. I really don't.
It shouldn't be. No, but there's so
I think
Andy,
I think Vince is talking about the future, and I'm just asking for right now. I want an accessibility tool. That's how we need to look at it. It's an accessibility tool to play online. There's no cosmetics, you know, and then generally then they can hire an in-house developer, an extra person, but you know, do a very, very minimal bare bones thing that we can all play with officially, and then slowly add these pieces on with an intern or something like that who's passionate about it. And you know, and then maybe turn it into the beautiful app Vince described.
Next question.
All right, our second and last question comes from Jimmy. He says, we have champions of each ink color, but who are the villains / haters / anti-champions of each ink color? And what would they do? I think it'd be something like all opposing characters of X ink color loses X strength, ward, evasive, etc. I'm going to start with this one, guys. I went through the list. Of course, we know in ink color we have Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Donald, Daisy, and Pluto, and they all have their perks. Mickey is a singer 8 + 2 willpower to all Amber characters. I decided for a villain, since Amber has been totally known for singing, and of course, in contrast to Mickey here, I figured another Ursula with something that would remove Singer Plus and maybe reduce basically the anti, you know, Mickey there. But the remove Singer Plus, I think, is a good one and very much on theme for Ursula. What do you guys think about that one?
Unplayable. Next one.
Okay. All right. My second one, of course, is Minnie. She is whenever an Amethyst character banishes somebody, you get to draw a card. I decided we kind of already have this one with the Hades looking for a deal. So he comes out, he chooses a character, and he says, if you don't bottom that card, I'm going to draw 2 cards. So I just chose Hades for Amethyst. I didn't think you guys would have any arguments there, but you might.
Actually playable. Next card.
All right, Goofy.
Definitely.
He gives everybody ward, and when one of your Emerald characters is banished in a challenge, you can banish that character as well. Basically, the Cusco effect. I decided to give that one to Lady Tremaine and say that she removes ward from all characters. We've known her in the past. The Imperious Queen gets around ward by making the player choose. This one just removes all of the ward. We already have
Playable
an Emerald
depending
Tremaine
on
already.
cost and incability
Yeah. Okay.
in the metagame.
Yeah.
Ruby is Donald Duck, +1 strength to all Ruby characters, and 7 strength characters get +1 lore. I chose Gaston. I didn't do the stats, but I gave him a big body, and he takes half damage in challenges.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Daisy, this is where it gets a little tricky here. I didn't know how to counter what Daisy does here. Daisy gives +1 resist, and when she quests, or when I think Emerald characters quest, one of the two. I don't have the card open in front of me, but you can look at the top card of your deck and put it on the top or the bottom. My villain champion here was Tamatoa, and it just said opponents can't play items. But I didn't really have anything to my steel champion or anti-champion actually counters Daisy more than Tamatoa does. I couldn't really think of a good Sapphire one. Do you guys have anybody?
No.
I mean,
take that as a no.
obviously, like I think
Yeah.
Hades is probably like another good Sapphire one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
And the last
And
one?
finally, of course, we know the champion for Seal is Pluto. Whenever you banish a character with a Seal character, you get 2 lore. And whenever you play a Steel character, you banish an item. I couldn't pick between two. I'm going to lean toward Scar because he's my favorite, but I think Hook is more of a prevalent card in Steel and just from set 1 and even the D23 release. I forget. I'm on the spot now and I can't think of Forceful Duelist is just an iconic card in the game from the very beginning. And I chose that either one of those two just ignore resist. And that's kind of counterintuitive or counter to the Daisy who gives resist on the Sapphire side. But I thought both of those would be like, I don't care about your resist. I'm going to challenge into you anyway. It's a challenge heavy ink color. And that was my choices. Did you guys have anything?
So my only kind of question here is that why isn't Elsa the villain for Amethyst? Because as Andy says, she is the villain.
Yep.
And I'm actually going to create a new kind of theme here, which is I actually think Hook is the hero of Peter Pan. I don't think he's a villain. I think Peter Pan is the villain.
Yeah, Peter Pan bullies that old man.
Yeah. Like he cut off Hook's hand and then makes fun of him for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
it was
kinda
weird
bullies.
watching Peter Pan again on
And
our
like,
Disney
I
feed,
mean,
and I'm like,
Captain Hook is a disabled man. We're making fun of a disabled man. I don't like it.
All right.
So for me, I think I just the villain of Amber, the coolest villain in Amber, I think is Hades. He's got the King of Olympus card. And then in Amethyst, I think it's Hades, looking for a deal or whatever. And then Emerald is probably going to be Hades, like the double dealer.
I hate that card.
We got Ruby is a tough one, but there is a Hades strong arm, so we're going to go with Hades. And then Sapphire, easy, Hades, Infernal Schemer. And then Steel, again, a little tough, but we found it, the Hades hot-headed ruler. So Hades is probably the villain of the whole game of Lorcana, really. Like, you heard it here first.
We're gonna end I think we end the episode right here.
Hades
thumbnail sealed and delivered.
Hades
it's just biggest bad ever, and I'm gonna put the Hades for each ink color in the thumbnail.
Just like a Brady Bunch style.
Yeah, just a Brady Bunch style. All right.
Well, I hope that was a good answer for Jimmy. I hope that's what you were looking for. Maybe we can talk about it on our Discord, where you can come and join and ask these questions so you can get your questions answered on the air. You can also ask them in the comments below or anywhere on our socials. And then I am going to kick it over to Vince for the main segment.
Yeah. So again, we're going to get back into the metagame here to talk about Whispers in the Well. So we've had our kind of first week of the meta game, and we had 2 tournaments this past weekend, 2 major tournaments. There are a lot of people playing. We had our CCQ in Ultrech, the Netherlands, where we had Emerald Sapphire, won by Promised Land, who took that down. And then at Sharp Gaming, they had a 10K. Havnez, probably saying that wrong. The
How else would you say
Steel
it?
Sapphire. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but they took that down. But just kind of running through the lists here. So at CCQ Ultrech, we had the top kind of four. And by the way, for both of these, the top four were different decks. There's some similar overlap, but they are different decks for each the top four. So we had Emerald Sapphire was first, and then we had Blurple was second. We had Amethyst Steel. Frank Karsten's deck was third, and then we had Sapphire Steel was fourth. At Sharp Gaming, we had was this Emerald Sapphire by Bro Hamilton. We had another Amethyst Steel deck, and then we also had a Emerald Amber deck by Gabe Golfer rounding out that. So pretty like, I think what I would say is like pretty diverse meta. The meta is still evolving. Definitely, I don't think solved. I was listening to Podcana earlier today, like on the drive home from the LGS, and Thiago's talking about how, it's still like, there's still a lot going on, and there's a lot of wide range of decks, I think, that are possible, and even variations within those decks. And I agree. I'm not going to disagree with Thiago. He's definitely a better deck builder and a player than I am. But with that, I think we could talk about these decks for these two, but I think we can maybe start by talking about what we're primarily testing. And so, Andy, I'm going to kick it to you to talk about what deck you're working on.
Yeah, I've been playing. I played a little bit of everything, really. If you guys watched Deck Test Tuesday, we practiced a couple of them there. I put together what I think were like the 4 most fun / most powerful likely decks here. I've got an Amethyst Steel, a Blurple, a Baja, and a Sapphire Steel. The Amethyst Steel was really nice. It kind of runs similar to how Amethyst Steel used to run. You just still put down big characters. It did seem a little hard to get to Demona sometimes, I think, was one of the problems I had, where if you're playing something on every turn, if you aren't playing Genie on 4, then you kind of run out of cards before you get to, like, you need to top deck a couple inkables. And I got stuck with, obviously, way too many uninkables in some of the testing that I did, but the deck still feels really, really strong. It doesn't run Goliath, which I was actually surprised about, which is kind of interesting. But
are you running 2 Demonas?
4. We run 4 Demona.
So you've got 4 Demona.
Demona is a huge payoff, because you run the same like 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of setup of just like a hook, Calhoun, or the new one, the Black Heron, and then you run like a Lexington or even the Dragon Genie still, or something on 3, Cobra, and then you got your Genie, obviously on 4 is the nicest. I actually don't know what other really good 4 drops you have in that, and I think that might be the weak spot. I might need to update my list to add a few more in.
I happen to have a computer in front of me. I'm going
Dumbo. Oh yeah, so I've got
Dumbo. Yeah.
Dumbo,
so,
Lexington.
well, I was just curious because Frank Karsten's deck, he's running one Demona.
Yeah, I have the Demona as well. I just didn't see that.
And then game sum 2. No. I was just saying that you're running 4 of, and I was saying Frank Karsten is running 1 of.
The big Demona or the little Demona?
The big Demona.
Only one of them?
Only one of them.
Interesting.
And then Frank
has a lot of like one-offs.
Well, yeah, he does. But his deck is very, like, I think he talked about this, that it's like, he didn't say this exact words, but I like, ultimately I think the theme of it is like, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It's got the tools, that all kind of do similar things, but they do things just in a slightly maybe different way for a different matchup. To be the best kind of like tool for that, so it gives you a better overall spread. But even the other deck for one in that was top 3 at Sharp Gaming, or the top 4, is only running 2 Demonas, and I only have 2 Demonas in my Amethyst Steel deck because I think
the aspect of them not having enough of that card too, right?
Yeah, but I think you
that
make
was
a
on
point.
opening weekend, right?
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but I think you make a point though that it is hard to get to play that, and so I think ultimately like the trigger to be able to get and then have you get your card draw off of that to have that effect, actually it maybe isn't something you want to totally rely on.
Yeah.
And so I think there is like some thought that like 4 of actually might be too many.
Yeah,
I think it's a good card, but I think it actually might be too many in a deck like Amethyst Steel.
The payoff though is so so good to be able to. I mean, there's like no other board that can really be built up. I also play one of the Mayor Wind Dancer. I might add more.
I was about to say you better be playing the Bear, baby.
I might be playing more honestly, because that card is pretty 4 cost vanilla 5/7 is pretty beefy. But like the payoff of
its
Demona
real downside
is
that's uninkable. The Mayor.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm uninkable.
I think the payoff of Demona is really good. I think you just need to be able to draw more. And Dumbo is another one that I think I didn't see enough, because if you have Genie Dumbo, you can go Genie on 5 or Genie on 4, Dumbo on 5, and draw another extra card and still have a hand size to be able to, ink and play the Demona and draw 3 off of it, exert everything, and then just every character you have 1 through 3 is basically better than theirs essentially, and you just
have
do
you
the whole
been
board.
brave enough to try the 4 cost Demona with Challenger?
Yeah, I have one of. That's the one I have one of.
Yeah, I think she's pretty good. What about even braver, playing her book the turn before? What do you play?
No.
Why?
It
gives her rush. Yeah, it gives her rush, and then whenever you exert anything with Big Demona, you get lore from every one of them. Everything that you exert. It's a turn off because you're playing. I don't think you want to play it on curve, honestly.
I
think
it's like a flex. Like you play that on your turn 5 and you just like do nothing else, and you got like one card in your hand. You're like, what?
Guess what it is?
Pass the turn to me. Pass the turn to me.
Yep. I think the thing is those you've got better cards to play. Like, what are you replacing to put that card in your deck and stuff? And obviously, like, I think if you're gonna do it, which I wouldn't recommend, I think it would be a one of in your deck. I mean, listen, I think that thematically it's a cool card. I just don't think it's actually very like. I would much rather put something like a Lexington on board. I'd even rather play the White Rose.
Yeah. I'm just looking at trying to find 4 drops. I play the Cheshire Cat as well as another new one. It seems fine.
It's a good one.
Ursula, I haven't really had the new Whisper Ursula. I haven't had a chance to really utilize that. It kind of feels a little win more. Violet Saberwing actually feels pretty nice, being able to threaten Dumbo, which I think is still a very relevant card in this meta. And it also enables Dumbo, which is pretty decent for because the fact that now your Genie Dragons are Lexingtons, although I do still like playing a Genie Dragon. Iago is a decent addition. The Black Heron is the easiest addition, I think. It's as close as we're going to get. And then the last one being Olaf, which I haven't had a great opportunity to use him. There was actually a line I considered against Kirsten today that would have won me the game, but only because I was 1 card away from the Cobra that I needed. Obviously, I had no idea to know this, but I considered. I played like a Cheshire Cat and a Calhoun, and I had a Olaf on board, and I considered not playing the Calhoun and instead boosting the Cheshire Cat, knowing that she was going to have to take out my Olaf, which I would then be able to bounce my Cheshire Cat back and get that basically one additional card draw from it. And obviously, if I had, I would have got a Cobra, and I was like, "Dang, that would have been so cool if I did that." But interesting.
Are you
like
playing the Tinkerbell Fast Flyer?
No,
the
I think
1-3 evasive quest for 2.
I think Carson's list is much meant to go a lot faster with like Timothy and that the Tinkerbell, 4 of that Tinkerbell as well.
Well, I was just saying, even in a much like less fast deck, I was playing Jimmy. Jimmy had that card in his deck. I don't know how many copies. I didn't ask, but he had, I think, at least 2 copies of that card in his deck.
It feels weak without the shift. Like I feel like I should have the shift. But then the shift is another like 6-drop that you potentially have in your hand that's hard to get to. It becomes a 4-drop. No.
But I mean, you do see here on Frank's deck here, he's versus running 4 Lexington, which I have in my my Amethyst Steel deck. He is taking 1 Lexington out and putting a Genie Satisfied Dragon in. And I think that's, again, just to have another hit for the Dumbo.
Yeah, it's got to be one.
I mean, he is the math guy, so he like really, but he like really, really, really wants it, right? Like I found that Dumbo is still decent, even with the list that I was testing, which only has like 1 Violet, 4 Genies, 4 Dumbos, 4 Elsas. Those are like the only evasives. I don't have any of this other, and he's got those cards plus Tinkerbell plus
got 1 happy lively night.
Oh yeah, I do have 1 Dragon Genie, right? But he's also got the Violet. He's got the Timothy doesn't gain evasive. He just gets
but
plus because
that card is like actually kind of annoying, because when you pair that with the Dumbo, any evasive, but Dumbo especially, right? You're getting 1 extra lore, and a 2/1/4 is like harder to remove than I think you think it is. Like, you can
Daisy.
You can. It's like you can. You can afford to run into it because it doesn't do much damage, but you're gonna have a hard time taking it out. Especially like I think at one point Jimmy had like 3 of them on board. And I was like, "Oh my god, what are we doing here?" Yeah, I know. So that card was a kind of a menace.
I have 4 Lexington, 1 Genie Dragon, because I really like the way that Lexington threatens opposing genies, because I do think there is still decent amount of Genie Wars. The other list I tested is Emerald Sapphire, which kind of feels just the same as last Emerald Sapphire, with just a new board wipe mechanic, which is, I think, definitely better. I don't think there's any real argument there. We saw it win the Ultrech event, right? There's still a bunch of different ways to go. They actually went the Max Goof way, I guess, to try and get back some of these actions. I personally don't run as many spooky sites. I run some more John Silver. I do run a couple. I don't run the Detective Donald, but I do run the Perfect Gentleman, and all of this is very, very similar. You ramp on 2, you ramp on 4 with Cindy now, or some of them even run Pleakley to ramp up Pleakley. You just ramp up to your big bombs, and then you just have John Silver, Basil, Hades, Prince Philip now with the spooky or malicious meaning scary. This one's still running a Bend to My Will.
He's not even running the Prince Philip shift line. He's just ramping straight to 9.
Cinderella is a heck of a card, Brad.
But I think that one of the things here and I honestly, I think this is I really do like this card in this deck, is the Donald Duck Perfect Gentleman. And I think, if you put the Donald Duck Perfect Gentleman in your deck, you almost are obligated to at least put one Bend to My Will in your deck. I think like those two cards kind of just go a little hand in hand, because it's like, all right, you gonna draw? Are you gonna do it? I remember I was actually at the DLC in Milwaukee. The first match I had was against the head held high Under the Sea version of this deck, and he played like, I think he had 2 Donald Ducks on board, and like he'd go to his turn, he's like, okay, I'm gonna draw. Are you gonna draw? It was like, and I'd think about it and be like, this time no. Or this time yes.
Why would you say no? Well, I always say yes. Just make him
because he
take
had
those,
Bend.
Yeah, make him take those cards from you, though.
Yeah.
He's gonna get your whole hand no matter what. The only difference is maybe those 2 cards could have been good, but they also could have been, Tipo Sale. So like, you didn't need him. You always draw more cards. Force him to do it.
I was also playing
trying to balance
Amethyst
the
and
Clarabelle, right? So
Steel, so they certainly
right.
weren't Tipo or Say.
Clarabelle, I can see maybe. Clarabelle.
Yeah, you want to avoid replenishing their hand as much as you can.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The deck's fun. It I think it's maybe a little less high rolly than Sapphire Steel might feel sometimes. You don't need the not the Clarabelle, the Cinderella, but just do the same things you did before.
Of these two, of the Amethyst Steel and Emerald Sapphire, so you've tested it. Like, so far, like, how's that gone? What are the good matchups, bad matchups?
I haven't played enough matchups really to know exactly which ones are great. I feel like against Sapphire Steel, the Emerald Sapphire probably, it seems like it could go either way. They both have decent top end removal. Arguably, even the Baja might have a little better removal, because 3 damage from like Villainy isn't doing anything to really any of the characters in Baja. The Basil, the John Silver, the Clarabelle, and they're gonna remove that anyway. So is like a Mother Knows Best or something like that. But against a more aggressive deck, it can be a problem, I think. Kirsten tested a Emerald Amethyst list that used the Webby Vanderquack. I don't know if you guys have tested with or against that.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm not so much worried about the ramp that it gives them, because they're only ramping if I'm ramping, right? They're only
I was gonna say it's not very good on the play, because
terrible on the play.
Yeah, terrible on the play, because I've been in several testing instances where I'm just like, I don't care if you shift to Webby right now, because I'm not ramping.
Unless you're
my
ramping.
ramp is through characters. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's clearly for
so
against a Sapphire deck,
if you're ramping, it is also fast too, right? Like a 2/4 that has ward is kind of annoying to deal with, especially for like this list in Emerald Sapphire. Mainly because you need to get something that big out on the board is like, several turns down the road. And then they also have the same or similar removal as you do. So they'll have Mother Knows Best and Malicious Mean Scary. She even runs the Prince Philip Malicious Mean Scary combo. You're welcome. And so it's like, can be annoying to have to deal with that sort of aggro to it. I tested against the Amber Amethyst list. That was actually pretty nifty. It just was basically the good cards from Amber and the good cards from Amethyst. And so they play like Aurora into like Tiana and like the Rapunzel that gives support and then makes them not damageable. And then they just play like Genie, Elsa. They like support the Elsa, swing in, it takes no damage, and then They just quest for a bunch. That was a little annoying. So it honestly, it's really, really similar. If you liked Emerald Sapphire last set, I think you should definitely try it again. It's got a better board wipe now, and it really plays very, very similar. Just hope you don't find the crazy aggro decks, and just ramp a bunch and just do expensive things every turn that are really great.
Yep. All right. Brad, you want to talk about your?
Yeah, it should be of no surprise to nobody if you listened last week. I am heavy on Amber Ruby right now, trying to make the old Fasa-esque deck work now, except it's Simba this time, the 7-cost boost whisper card that boosts 3 for the Fasa effect. But it's been a lot of fun in testing. The ramp that we were talking about just a little bit ago comes from the characters. It doesn't come from the Inkwell. So Webby has never been a problem in the matchups that I've had. She might stick around for a couple turns before I get my heavier hitters out there. But Pluto on 1, Louis on 2 if I can get them. Otherwise, I'm trying to get a Pongo out quickly, or even the bodyguard Raja to protect my ramp for a little bit longer before I can get Minnie or Baloo out a few turns later. But it's just constantly doing what I can to keep my hand filled with Pongo, protecting with the bodyguards. Like there's so many bodyguards in the deck with the Raja, the Minnie, the Baloo, and then once you get the ramp up in the protection, you're finding your Goofy, the Rush Goofy. Flying Goof that comes out 5/5 hits like a truck. David Xanatos has been a lot of fun to get him out when the time's right. He is a Ruby card that is a 5/5 6-cost quest for 2, and whenever he quests, you can give the character you play that turn rush, as well as anytime a character of yours is banished while he's on board, you get to draw a card. So a little bit of card draw there, but the matchups that I've had, I've been, I shouldn't say consistently. I'm pretty sure all my matchups have been like 50-50 percentage overall, but I've had some very, very good matchups with Blue Steel, who I think is going to be a big contender this set. I haven't played a whole lot of Amethyst Steel yet. I'm interested in trying that out. I'm sure I'll probably run into it tomorrow night if I can make it out to League. But yeah, it's been
Have you drawn
really
cards?
fun. Stitch,
Surfer Stitch,
Thanatos, Surfer Stitch.
How do you get
Pongo
the Surfer Stitch?
with the ramp from the Pluto and I always say Dewey. It's Huey. That's the 2-cost ramp card, but a lot of protecting them to get the cards out
So
a lot quicker. So a lot of times I'm playing the Horseman on 3 because I have Huey and Pluto out there. If I need to protect them, if there's a threat out there, maybe I'll play Minnie to protect them first. But it's when that Cindy comes down in a lot of these games, like the Horseman just takes her out immediately. So you're only ramping with her one time. But then once I get past that, if I still have the ramp, I got Baloo to come out, who's a big 3/8 quest for 2 with support. And yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Amethyst Steel, or not Amethyst, Amber Steel today, because I played in my testing this matchup that was incredibly close, and I thought I was going to have it in the late game because they were just spamming the board with all the stuff that you said, the Genie, the Elsa, and I was finding ways around it. I have Horseman Strikes in here. I used to have 4 of those, so I'm now running 2 and 2 of that and World's Greatest Criminal Mind. But the evasive threat with Goofy, the what I just say, the Horseman Strikes, and then both the Elsa and Genie are Horseman susceptible as well. So able to deal with those quickly. The only reason I lost that game, though, the top deck of the century for this guy, he got the shift Pluto. I left a Pluto on board, and his final lore was shifting that Pluto into the bodyguard and questing for win. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I fought this game tooth and nail to get here and climb back to victory, all but assured, before a top deck shift won the game for him. But overall, it's been a lot of fun. The other evasive threat I forgot to mention was Moana. I'm running the Ruby Moana. It's a 4/3 and gives +3 strength whenever she challenges somebody, so that helps out quite a bit in a little bit of board control. But
she's a 4/3, 4/3, right?
4/3. Yeah, okay. So she threatens the Genie as well.
Pretty good.
Yeah. And you have the ability to cheat out characters with things like the Pluto and the Huey, right? As well.
Yeah, there's a lot of turns where it's I can sneak out Pongo and Twilight Bark on the same turn if I have the ramp there to allow me to play Pongo for 1 and hit 2. It's all how I alter into the right stuff to make that work. A lot of the times I'm looking for the ramp with Pluto and Huey, and then a bodyguard to protect him for at least a turn, so I get something bigger out like the Horseman or the Mini or something. But
if you the bodyguard, your first bodyguard's at 3, right?
Yeah, it's a 3/4 Raja.
So if you have Pluto out and they threaten you with like a Rafiki or a Hook, it's Pluto. So really, basically, they play any 1-drop whatsoever that exists. Then you're looking Pluto +2 to go to Raja immediately.
Not always. I might not exert Pluto. There's been plenty of games where I just play Pluto
Huey
and then I just play Huey on 2 and then pass.
Okay, and then pass. And so now they play a 2-drop that he's either Tipo, which represents Tipo, or just another 1-drop, which represents like them ramping towards something bigger, which is essentially what you're doing as well. And so they're either keeping pace with you or they're playing something like a Calhoun, which or a Black Heron or another good value 2-drop that again threatens you, right?
That's exactly right. Like I said at the beginning, I have not run into Amethyst Steel a whole lot yet, so I'm curious to see how that goes. But
or I guess Sapphire Steel doesn't play those cards, right? They do the ramp.
Yeah, Sapphire Steel, I've been surprisingly consistent with. Yeah, like I use Goliath there's where some of my draw is too. And by the time Goliath hits the board, I can utilize that. I have utilized that to get some of the draw, manipulate his ability to benefit myself.
So what you're saying is you're top decking around the same time that they get their Goliath off. I think at that point, right. And so
there was a turn recently where I purposefully didn't play Stitch. I left Stitch as the only one in my hand when I could have drawn 2. I had another option. I don't remember. It might have been Xanatos or Baloo. I think it was Baloo, because I knew that Goliath was going to get me a card anyway, and then the next turn I could deal with the Goliath and then just play the Stitch and get the 2 cards as well. So, like, there's all kinds of things that these lines that I'm finding as I'm playing through it and figuring things out. But it's been it's been fun. It's been good. I'm really, really liking it. I'm not saying it's top tier or anything, but it's it's been feeling like the deck that I loved several sets ago, and happy to be playing it. Until I run into your Amethyst Steel or something that's just going to feel like destroy it. But so far,
I don't know. I guess Sapphire Steel might have trouble with it because you're allowed to do the stuff you want to do. But I feel like any deck that plays stuff on curve that's good value is going to be able to threaten your so-called ramp, which ends up leaving you with low cards in hand and low ink as well. Whereas like at least with the Sapphire Steel, when they end up with low cards in hand and then they play like a Horizon or a Goliath or something to refill their hand, or Sapphire Steel uses Demona or something like that, you're still like better off with ink, or I guess in this case of Amethyst Steel, they just have all low cost characters.
Well, Sapphire Steel's not using Demona.
Right, but Amethyst Steel, I just meant like when you get to the end and you're dumping your hand with an Amber Ruby list, my worry is that if your ramp is character based and the characters are removed, it's basically you can't remove the ramp that Sapphire gives you. You can remove the ramp that Amber gives you, which is what brings me to why aren't you playing the Lantern instead of the Huey?
I don't know.
Because the Lantern
I thought about
it. Another 1-drop the next.
Lanterns don't get you a lore though, but that's also true.
Yeah, you can play Lantern and immediately it's a sale. It's like a sale, so you can play another 1-drop character. Sure. It's really nice.
That's something to consider, but it's also in a deck where I have 4 actions only. The more that I add stuff to it, the more that Pongo and Simba can miss on their triggers. So. One thing I wanted to point out, I pointed it out in our Discord earlier, was that the sickest combo ever happened in one of my last games of testing, where I boosted a Simba and it boosted into another Simba, so that I was able to boost that Simba into a dragon. So I got basically, what is that? 23 inks worth of characters out there for 6. And I got to remove a Hades with that dragon fire. So absolutely insane. And to top it off, what I had in hand, what I drew for turn was a Mowgli. So I used my ink to play that Mowgli and take away the Diet Zeus that they had in their hand. So it was just an absolute perfect chain of events for, just some fun Lorcana Simba shenanigans. But and just another point to the blue steel is that Monday night I played Vince and I think he bricked really hard in the second game and I took that down. But then the next game I played against Andy, who was playing a detective theme, a different Andy, Grapes Andy, and he was playing this detective theme with all the Nick Wilds and the Judys and just cooked me. We went to 3 games, but when he was on the play, he did everything he needed to do to find his detectives, load up his board, and I couldn't do enough to take that down. So it's things like that I'm running into I haven't seen before and didn't know how to play around and couldn't find the tools that I needed to take care of it. But still, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm going to stick with it until something else comes along, like an Amber Sapphire deck that Solo Falcon posted in our Discord today. That's back down in New Orleans, and it looks so much fun. I might build that too.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I've built a lot of decks. So primarily, like as Brad said, I've been testing Sapphire Steel. I actually totally changed the build I was on from Monday to what I was on tonight, and played Heather with it. And actually, it was basically a mirror match. And I think game 1, she had control of the board, and it was five lore to 4, but she had I think 6 lore on board. And I had no characters on board, and I was like, "All right, let's scoop, go to the next game," because I'm not gonna play that out. Try to figure out how to weasel my way through that. But then I did win the next 2 games. Though I will say that one card I have in my blue steel deck, which I don't think all blue steel decks have, is a Spooky Sight. And in the mirror, that card sucks. It was every single time I would draw that card and I was like, how do I get this out of my hand? I was like, I get a Cinderella and it's like, well, I know where that Spooky Sight is going. But I'll tell you, I think a card that's a real
4 cost, right?
It's a 4 cost, yeah. But I was just saying, you can ink the Spooky Sight. Yeah. End of turn action. So it kind of gets you out. It gets it out of your hand. The other, I'll say, I think another really great card that is, I was maybe a little down on at first is the Kita. Just to be able to kind of filter through your deck, especially when you're in those situations where you're, top decking. Just to be able to be okay, it's I can pull off the top of my deck. It's okay, I've got a something like a Goliath or a Tipo. It's well, I know where the Tipo's going and I know where the Goliath is going. And I don't have to worry as much. I get a lot more consistently to what I want to play. And also being able to refill your hand. And then having so using that as a filter card, using things like Sail, Visions, I think being able to dig through your deck and being able to find certain items.
You're running Vision?
Not items. I am running Vision, 4 of Visions.
Interesting.
Yeah. In fact, I am not running any 1-drops in that deck.
Yeah, you're doing the no 1-drop option.
No 1-drop. Yeah, just going straight to, which, honestly, I'll be the matchup I think I'm most worried about is, what's that?
I said Hook or Mulan is always worth it.
Hook, Mulan, and Develop.
Well, so I've thought about Hook being the most obvious inclusion just because of more aggro matchups.
Sure.
But I ultimately think your answer in aggro matchups, granted I haven't played this out. So there have been very few matches I would like to kind of play into an aggro deck, but I really think your matchup spread for an aggro deck is just to try to ramp as fast as you can to 6 to play something like Spooky Sight. Like that's the answer. And if you can't do that, you've probably lost the game.
Yeah, but like you said,
You
Spooky Sight is so bad into pretty much every other matchup. If they're not, like the reason it's good into aggro is because they're not playing bigger than 3 cost cards. But like even every time I've had Spooky Sight in my hand, it's just been the worst card in my hand.
Yeah, no, it absolutely sucks.
Everything good
sure.
is 4 cost or more, and everyone's only playing good cards. So like, yeah, the no 1-drop is interesting. I really like Kita because it also triggers Cinderella,
Love Kita,
which is great.
Yep,
it's also like a diet Cinderella.
Yep.
If you don't get the Cinderella, you can play the Kita, and you still get to ramp a little bit faster.
And it's almost guaranteed to survive because of Ward.
Yeah, and so I personally subscribe to the basically 2-4-6 method is what they call it, where you absolutely ramp on 2. So I have Sail, Tipo, and actually the classic one jump, and then Cindy, Kita, really just Cindy. Like you hard mulligan for the Cinderella, and then you ramp on 2. You ramp with the 4-drop, and you go straight to the 6-drop, and then it's just all bombs with Goliath, Tinkerbell. You even
Vincenzo.
Got
Hades,
you got
Vincenzo.
Vinny,
Hades. Yeah, or the Headless Horseman is another
the
card I
Headless
really like.
Horseman
That
is the one that
drop.
I'm getting. No, that is absolutely getting cut from the list. And
I will say I like this card.
No,
and one of the reasons why I like this card, is that one, even if it whiffs, which it can, you are still discarding cards from your opponent.
So you gave
which
them
is
3
great.
cards. No, they have exactly the same number of cards at the end of the turn. And you also filter 3 through card through.
Sure, you both have the exact same, but you could filter through some of their bombs by that point.
But you could also filter through their duds or your own.
Sure,
bombs.
You can. It is like it is a gambly. It's a gambly card, but I think it's actually worth the gamble.
No,
and I think it's totally a valid argument.
Here's the reason,
valid argument to have in that deck. I think because when it hits, man, does it hit?
You saw Monday night, right?
No, I tell you what, I saw Monday night and I saw tonight. Heather hit. She had 10 damage. She got 3 of my actions and 1 of her actions. And then even when I whiffed, where I didn't get 1 single action, I got I think it was 2 Goliaths out of her hand and some other in a Vincenzo and stuff. So I'm just saying that card is better than I think you're giving it credit for.
I think it was great for you in those matchups, but you have to realize that the cards that you're throwing away here, there are more good cards that you imagine the actions you're flipping over and discarding. Imagine you had a card that's in play that just says discard Strength of a Raging Fire, or He Hurled, or just discard an action and do 2 damage. Are you discarding Strength of a Raging Fire? Are you discarding He Hurled as Thunderbolt? Especially when you're in a situation where you've already played an 8-cost character, so you clearly in some
situations, I think that there's an argument to being say to do that. I honestly, I think the card is better than you're giving it credit for. But I mean, we'll find out. It's week 1 of the meta. We'll see where it lands out. But I ultimately I'm pro this card. It's clear that you're anti this card.
I think we got a new villain showdown. Let's go.
New villain showdown. Speaking of villain showdowns, another deck that I'm testing here is Amethyst Ruby. Going back to the villain, what was our I'm trying to get the words out here. Brad, help me out. Our mascot. Thank you, Andy. Our mascot, Ruby the Amethyst Dragon here. So I've been testing this out. I'm actually testing out this deck by Kiki X Hermes. Well, actually, it's TSR Red Eyes Kiki. But it's from the CCQ Ultrech. It was a top 32 deck. They made the 22nd place, and it's really, really cool. So it has Diablo, the Obedient Raven, as the Palace Guard as your 1-drops.
Sure.
The Diablo Watchful Raven, which is a 3/3 quest for 2. Lumiere, which is a card that I know you know very well, Brad.
Love
the
that
Fiery Friend, yeah. And then it has Bronx Ferocious Beast, the 6/4, which has been like a kind of awesome heavy hitter in sealed, I think we've seen. Cheshire Cat to be able to move damage with its boost. A one of Hermes, which gives you rush. And then it also has some of the newer kind of cards here. It has the Hades looking for a deal, the Headless Horseman, and and 3 of Demona. But I think the card that really is actually the MVP of this build is this Goofy, the 6-drop flying goof, 5/5 rush evasive. And can answer basically any. Well, I shouldn't say any, but a lot of cards that your opponent has, especially if you compare it with things like the Headless Horseman by banishing, because you can give your characters +1 strength. You can also pair it with your Lumiere to give strength. So it has a lot of like strength energies here as well. And then its card draw real engine here is the Junior Woodchuck Guidebook, which, I mean, I'll say this much is like when I was playing this, and I have like one match. So like, please don't take this. This is like real early testing.
Sure.
And I was playing against Jimmy and his Amethyst Steel build. And I think for him, unfortunately, he bricked a little bit as well. So I was able to actually win the game 1 of 3 before the store closed. So we still have 2 more games to potentially play to see if we can win this one out. But the Junior Woodchuck, you get that, not ideal, I don't think, to get that out on curve. But if you don't have a 2-drop, it's fine to put and pass, as long as you're inking, just to be able to kind of build up into some of these characters like your Genies, your Iagos, which is another big body 4/6. And get to your like Headless Horseman, Demona. But what's really great about this deck and something like Demona is there's a lot of turns like we saw in Fabled where your opponent just is like, will play a character, like play a character, not exert anything and pass. So there's kind of this like stalemate. And what's really great, particularly I think about this Ruby Amethyst build with Demona in it, is that with characters like the Headless Horseman and with Lumiere, you can then play Demona and you can exert all their characters and make some really great favorable trades to be able to clear their board. So it's in some ways like, yes, it's a combo that you're getting out, but since you're kind of doing it on curve throughout it, it's not like a combo piece that you have to get off like in necessarily succession. You can just have a few pieces of it. So it's kind of like and in some ways like a really cheap Be Prepared. I know some Ruby Amethyst builds I've seen out there, like I know Baker, Lorcana Villain has been trying to play around with a Ruby Amethyst build quite a bit, and he's had I know, right? Yeah. Do I think this is a like an S tier deck? No, I don't. I don't think it's there yet. I still think we're missing some of the real key core removal tools that Ruby Amethyst used to have prior to rotation, that it no longer has access to. But I do think with cards like Hades making a deal, get it there a little bit, because you can kind of, the great thing about a card like Demona is if you play Demona and then the next turn they don't deal with Demona, you can, quest with it, you can challenge with it, and then play Hades, and you kind of incentivize them in some ways to give you cards if they're not going to remove a character, because then they don't want you to exert the Demona on your turn. And you've already gotten value out of that Demona, because hopefully you've played it in a way that you're drawing the cards and you're also exerting the your opponent's character. So you're kind of like, well, whatever, like either take it away or whatever, I don't really care. And so you can kind of be in these like Hades battles a little bit. And I know that Jimmy and I were going back and forth on that a little bit, and there's certainly things that I think I misplayed on a little bit. Although like there was one point in time where Jimmy had a Dumbo, a Lexington, and I want to say the Timothy Q mouse on board, or maybe it was like a dock. It was like a 1-3 or 1-4 card. Wasn't super relevant in this particular thing, and I ended up playing something like Elsa, swinging into Lexington, and then using I had Cheshire Cat to boost my Cheshire Cat to take out Lexington because I had a genie on board. And I think this goes to your point earlier, Andy, where you're talking about Lexington being able that threat, is that I actually viewed that Lexington more of a threat than the Dumbo on board in that particular matchup because it could cleanly trade into, and it would just win that trade for if I were to quest with my genie. Little did I know, I think at the next turn he played like another Timothy Q mouse to get another like 2 lore. So maybe in retrospect, the Dumbo was a better target. But this is I think what I was most surprised about playing this, and again, very few matches on this, is how well it handles into the meta that it did not occur when I was testing this out in Fabled. And even when I was testing this out on Reign of Jafar, like it feels like we're starting to get back to Ruby Amethyst of old. Are we there yet? I don't think so, but I'm pretty excited about this build.
I'm kind of surprised. I brought it up in the Discord earlier. Sorry, Andy. The Hades, the 7-cost Hades that comes out. I think there's some good synergy. I know it's expensive in the end game, but the 7-cost Hades that does damage to draw 2 cards on play and quest is a good way for hand replenishment there, and synergizes with the Cheshire Cat. If you were able to keep him on board that long, you probably don't want to play him later, but I mean, I guess you'll have the ink to do it later as well. And then any damage that you do with the Hades, you can just boost away with the Cheshire Cat because there's only 2 damage. So I was impressed by that idea, but everybody was quick to say, well, it's a lot of commitment there. But I feel like there are going to be instances where you're able to do that and keep a healthy board and draw cards at the end game there when you're battling out for that final few lore.
Yeah, I think the only downside, I mean, this has always, I think, been Ruby Amethyst's downside, is that you really do have to worry about your uninkable counts because you don't have a good way to get rid of your uninkables. Like we talked about with like the Sapphire Steel deck, you could do things with Cinderella, you could do things with Tipo. We talked about the inclusion of Mulan being able to like draw a card, discard a card. So you have these options to get rid of your uninkables to be able to either ink them or to put them in your discard, right? Just to get them out of your hand to have a much more efficient hand. And that's, you don't really, I'm trying to think like, I'm trying to think of an option.
Not a great
you would
way.
have to do.
You just have to play them, really.
Yeah, right.
The Ruby Amethyst, the math is really, really like you have so many ways of bending the math, like you said, with the Lumiere, the moving the damage. I do really like the Hades. I think the key to Ruby Amethyst is like to have strong enough like cards. I think Rush needs to I like it's only one of Hermes, I think you said, but I like the Hermes inclusion. Because Rush, like that Maui was so valuable for Ruby Amethyst, having that amazing Rush, and the Goofy is a great option too. But you really, really need to be able to keep a strong hand size. Woodchuck Guidebook is not terrible. I wonder if Merlin might have a way to fit in there, the boost Merlin, or I don't know if Finders Keepers find its way back in, or Ruby Amethyst could also adopt some Ruby Singers in there and potentially even play like a second star to the right or something. But as long as Ruby Amethyst just keeps a healthy hand, it's just gonna like ink and play a good card. And Hades is one of the most fun cards, I think, in the new set. I really like the sort of decision points and like whenever someone plays a Hades on a card, or when you play Hades on a card, like it makes this really interesting set of decisions that that they have to make. And
I also think like Ruby Amethyst is actually one of the decks that I could see, doing a more of like a Frank Karsten-esque type of like Swiss Army knife, like pulling out, certain like, I think you talked about like Violet. I think trying to maybe fit in a Violet there to be able to, trade Dumbos to get, to more efficiently remove Dumbo is an option there. It's real bad. It's kind of disappointing that we don't have the best bounce package cards anymore because,
Yeah.
imagine being able to like bounce something like a Hades to be able to then play it yet
A lot.
again and stuff. I mean, there's a lot. There's also Madam Mim Elephant.
Elephant, yeah.
I don't know if that
Rhino.
You can also go the route with
play that.
Surfer Tink, the Surfer Tinkerbell, the 3 cost 1/3 quest for 2. There's also the Peter Pan. If you like, you could even super load up on that, or if there's a shift target available for either of those in those colors. But
yeah.
there's a lot of really good options.
So I think there's actually a lot of opportunity for Ruby Amethyst. Like I said, I'm not convinced that it's the deck I'm going to stick with. But I've found myself having the fun that I used to have with Ruby Amethyst in this deck.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, I remember this. And it feels good to play that. So yeah. Any last thoughts on anything before we get to our next segment, everybody's favorite segment?
I think I'm decked out.
All right. The moment of the week.
Oh man. I wasn't
Brad?
prepared for the all right in the voice. Apologies to Gantu. It should be of no surprise. Our villain of the week is Cinderella, Dream Come True. She is a Sapphire legendary character, storyborn hero princess, 4-cost uninkable. 2/3. Sorry, you put unthinkable in here. She's a 2 strength, 3 willpower.
It autocorrected. No.
That's why you read the
And
card.
she has the ability, whatever you wish for. At the end of your turn, if you played a princess character this turn, you may put a character from your hand into your inkwell face down and draw a card. Art by Brittany Hackett. And this card is the talk of the town. Cindy has been prevalent in this game since basically the get-go, but it's essentially basically set 2. But this one is like how far I'll go on a body, and just continues to go farther and farther for every princess that you play by replacing the card that you ink with her at the end of the turn. It is insane. How do you guys feel about it? I think she's in every Sapphire deck. Does that sound right?
Almost. Blurple.
I think she's in some Blurple builds, isn't she?
If you're brave enough, I guess.
I think we talked about
Brad.
this. I think we talked about this like last week, or maybe when she was revealed that like Blurple's probably the worst deck that she's in.
I think you said that, yeah.
Just because of the weird spot she's in, but
There's
but
better
otherwise,
4-drops,
yeah. But otherwise, this is.
She's in Sapphire Steel. She's like a must play. Like this is hard mulligan status for Sapphire Steel. I think.
You think would you mulligan for this over something like Strength?
Oh yeah, and Sapphire
yeah,
Steel
yeah.
for sure. Yeah, you need this and turn 2 ramp because I think you're really pushing for trying to get to the later game. I think the Cinderella card alone is like a really good card. It's great to be able to play, ink, draw a card. Some of the downsides, I think, obviously, like getting the card at the end of your turn means you can't play it or whatever. Low stats, low questing, uninkability, all that's not great. The big thing I have a problem with is like if you pair it with turn 2 ramp, if you're not getting the sale and you get the TPO instead, you are low on cards.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
Getting this card
it's
late
rough.
is terrible because you have to discard, you have to ink a card to draw a card. If you don't have a card in your hand, she's a terrible play. And I found in all my testing so far that she's easily dealt with, at least with the deck that I'm playing. I take care of her almost immediately every time she comes down. But that also is a testament to how good she is, because especially in blue steel, you got as Vince mentioned earlier, you got the Kita, you got the Namari, you got the Jasmine. Like if they play her and then play another princess on the next turn, then they're ramping up to like 7 or 8 ink and hitting their bombs on turn 5, and it is absolutely wild. So I try to take care of her as quickly as possible because I mean, she's great to look at, beautiful card, but she is just insane with the ramp. And a lot of people, just like every set, when a bomb card like this comes out, we've seen a lot of people talking about bans. Like, anybody think she's ban worthy? I don't
Sky
think so.
certainly
no.
thought so until
Sky-
he pulled
Yeah,
Enchanted.
until he got him.
Until he pulled the Enchanted.
Yeah.
That was one of my
Disregard.
favorite
Like,
tweets.
just kidding, JK. Don't
I responded to him. I was like, this is probably my favorite tweet of the week because he was the first to call for a ban, and he has the audience to really spread it. And then he pulls the Enchanted, which is also beautiful, and is like, I don't think she needs a ban anymore. Good, so good.
Yeah. I mean, I think this card is, the later game, you kind of get into a point where you're like, the tricky part is like, do you gamble, right? Do you play it ink at turn to draw another card that may be a bomb at the end of the turn? And this is where I think something like Akita at the end of the game, and this can really actually kind of be a good combo strategy, because you can, you can exert your Kita, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and see like, okay, is it worth it for me to do this, or do I just say, no, I'm not going to use the Cinderella ability. So, but I mean, I think, arguably I'd say if you're in that board state, you're probably doing pretty well. If you can keep a Kita and a Cindy on board. But in the later game, although you'd much, I think, rather have your big bombs, but sometimes you're stuck with the cards you have. But certainly, I think this is a curve play that you want to hit every time.
So I was gonna segue over to Andy and say you've probably played with and against it the most. What are your ultimate thoughts on it? Yeah,
I've mostly played with it, and I think my biggest complaint is really just that, like, you're asking to take 2 turns off for great payoffs. Don't get me wrong, right? Like you take turn 2 off, or in some instances, like the no 1-drops deck, you take 3 turns off. You don't do anything turn 1 except ink. Turn 2, you ink and you sail or tipo, which is arguably very much taking a turn off. You're not nearly playing a tipo is not nearly as good of a card as whatever they played on 2, most likely. And then the problem is that you then need to do that again. Whereas I think, like in Sapphire Steel, where it's something like a Genie or even that Demona, even some of them I've seen playing Dolores, this Cinderella, it just, advances you 1 more turn, then you really got to have that high end. Yeah, you got to have a Goliath or it's just it feels like almost more ramp than you need, kind of.
Well, you just got to think about the turns you're missing, right? And this is why like the version I have doesn't play that 1-drop, because you're inking and you're passing, and then you're turning around. And I think like the ideal turn to play here is you really want Sail, unless you have like a ton of uninkables. But I think Sails, because you want the card draw, right?
Yeah,
like as you alluded to, it's like you're running out of cards in hand. Like the time that the TPO's good is when you have like no inkables in your hand.
I would argue, being the Sapphire Steel for the last few weeks of the last set, was that my goal on turn 4 or 5, I guess, after playing Cluck was to play Beyond the Horizon. So if you play the 1-drop, the Tipo, and the Cindy, and you're looking low on cards and you don't have the Goliath to drop, or even if you do, Cindy, Tipo, and your 1-drop can sing Beyond the Horizon and replenish your hand a little bit too, and disrupt theirs depending on what you're playing against. And then, you don't arguably want Beyond the Horizon that early in the game, but if your deck is built toward it, like my entire goal in the last when I was playing this was Kita on 3, Cluck on 4. They're both warded, and you got to go through Cluck to get to Kita. You're pretty much guaranteed to sing Horizon the next turn, and so that's an option to disrupt and reimburse your hand a little bit as well. That I think with the 1-drops, mathematically with 1-drop Tipo and her, you could sing it if you wanted to, but. And then maybe find a princess to, drop again, ramp a little bit more, and then you got a couple bombs in your hand for the next turn. But
yeah, because
I don't have enough experience with it. So
well, let's see. Like, so if you turn 1 ink, turn 2 you sail Tipo, you're advancing to turn 3, turn 4 you ink, play Cindy, and then you
turn
ink
3,
again.
Cindy.
Turn 3, play Cindy,
yeah.
And then you ink and off a Cindy. You could also ink beforehand, so now you're at 7. No, 6 ink, right? 6 at the end of that turn.
You're 5. Sure. So you ink to go to 4, play Cindy, and then you ink to 5 at the end of the turn and draw a 5. Card. So you go to 6.
6 to your next turn. So you skip. What I'm getting is you skip 5.
Yeah,
right?
you skip 3 and you skip 5. You skip 3 with the turn 2 ramp. You skip 5 with the turn 3 ramp, turn 4 ramp, the 4 cost.
Yeah.
Ramp.
Yeah. Okay.
Part of my problem with Cindy is that I feel like there aren't any, and Brad alluded to it earlier with his Amber Sapphire list that he's going to try and tinker with. Doesn't feel like 6 cost is very impactful. Like, Sapphire Steel Blurple, which I know I said doesn't really play this, but even the Emerald Sapphire that does play this, like the bombs are at 7. Right, like the really good cards start getting good at 7. There are some 6s, but they're not necessarily the heaters that you really want. And it getting to 4, being able to go to something like a Genie or a Kita or that Donald Duck in Emerald Sapphire or something, that's feels huge. The double ramp from the Cindy, while incredibly strong, especially because it replaces that card, is the Goliath really is the
it's Goliath and Big Tink, right?
Yeah, Goliath and Big Tink. Goliath obviously feels really good because at that point you're out of cards. So
right.
Yep.
But
yeah,
Cindy is quite the card. I'm curious to see where she goes. I think she is a bit high rolly, kind of like your Diablos. Where you're whatever other your Cindy strength kind of thing that the combos you're trying to hit, which I know isn't everyone's play style to want to have to like alter for these game breaking winning or losing cards.
I got a proposal. Just thought of it on the moment. It's only going to take like 30 seconds, so I want to get your opinion on it. I've played this card a few times in Steel Fossa in the past. We're looking at 6 drops here. Steel, Jafar, Tyrannical Hypnotist, 0/7 Challenger 7, and opposing characters with 4 cost or less can't challenge. Is that worth considering?
That one's fun.
Because, in Amethyst Steel, right? You have all the 4 cost or less characters can't challenge anymore. That seems like a pretty good ability, but
it's really just Amethyst Steel that it probably shuts down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at that point, they probably just quest, right?
Yeah.
They just say,
yeah, go ahead. Turn sideways. I got a 7/7 here, and quest for 2. And you can't challenge back? I don't know.
Hades.
We're deck building. Hades. Yeah.
Hades. Hades.
Or, I mean,
the Demona and swing in like all 3 of their Calhouns or something.
I think that makes the mirror probably like significantly worse, would be my guess.
Yeah, it's a weird card. It's an interesting card, though. I thought about it last set in Amethyst Steel, because that really would have shut down Amethyst Steel a lot last set. And that was a big part of the meta. And I was like, man, that would be really nice. But last set, Amethyst Steel didn't really get to 6 ink very often. I'm still not convinced.
Playing
it's going
Blurple, you
to.
did.
I'm not convinced it's going to this set, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, sure.
obviously
Yeah.
Sapphire Steel can get to that ink much faster. So it's a good
Should we get into the artist?
Yeah, it's going to be quick. Miss Hackett here has 6 cards in the game, including this Cindy. The most playable ones we all know is the Muses, Proclaimers of Heroes from set 4, I believe. Yep. That was a big card in both, I think, Zan and Luke's DLC wins last season. And we've also seen Olivia Flaversham jump up in some aggro decks. She's a 2-cost uninkable 1/1 that quests for 3. And yeah, the Dawson, King of Hearts, Amethyst, and a Ruby Raya from a few sets ago. But yeah, 6 cards in the game. This is, in my opinion, the most beautiful one in Cinderella Dream Come True.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let us know your thoughts on Villain of the Week. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you're joining us on audio, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
And if you're joining us on YouTube, which if you're not, you really should. We have a lot of fun over here. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and ring the bell so you can be notified of all of our fun content. Deck Test Tuesday, meta reports, and anything else that might come our way.
I got a spicy one on the meta report for you this week. We understand your time is valuable, so we appreciate you spending a little bit of it with us. If you would like to follow along as we plot our devious plans, consider following us on our socials. We're on Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and the platform formerly known as Twitter @Rules of Villainy. And we also have a growing community on Discord, which you can join with the link below.
Until next week, stay safe, fellow villains. Be wary of wannabe heroes who want to disrupt your villainous plan. And as always, remember the rules of villainy.